Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. How are you? Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, now we will come to today's news. And it looks like Kari Lake refuses to give up. And absolutely, that is a win for us because this lawsuit that is being brought in Arizona against Katie Hobbs to Maricopa County is more than just them about them. It's about our election integrity. And that is what makes this lawsuit so critical and crucial that it will continue to proceed. Kari Lake has promised she'll take it to Supreme Court if she needs to. Kari Lake is not out of despite. Kari Lake is not giving up. And neither should we. We should continue to demand that we have free and fair elections and integrity in our elections. If you're in a state that does not provide that, you should be petitioning your representatives, your state senators and people within the community, your local supervisor of elections, etc., etc. Your voice matters. And Kari Lake is doing a lot of work out there in Arizona to pull back the curtain, which has already been done in that first trial. Pull back the curtain of the corruption that was taking place in Maricopa County, their collusion with Katie Hobbs, where they formed a PAC within the Maricopa County. The supervisor of elections created a PAC to sit there and attack Kari Lake, a representative. So the supervisor of elections within Maricopa County was not being neutral. They were being partisan, and they were working on behalf of Katie Hobbs. And along with that, they were working within the state along with companies like Twitter to silence anyone who was calling them out. They had a direct line to Twitter to people that work still loyal to the regime to censor individuals who Katie Hobbs did not want speaking out against her. The serial racist, a serial liar, the one that continues to hide inside basements to refuse to even participate in a debate to face Kari Lake one-on-one because she knew Kari Lake would absolutely destroy her. Well, Kari Lake has now introduced this new lawsuit, which will entail all of the counts that she wanted to push in the last lawsuit, which the last judge only took 2 of the 10 items that were listed on that lawsuit. So let's get to take a look what we have here. It says Kari Lake files notice of appeal and historic election contest lawsuit, full appeal expected this week. Now, the whole docket is provided to you in this article here. So I'll link it in the description so you can go check it out. It's like 30 pages. I'm not going to go through all 30 pages with you guys. That's just way too much anyway. So it's Kari Lake on Tuesday filed a notice of appeal against Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs, a Maricopa County election officials, in her historic lawsuit to overturn the 2022 midterm election. The Gateway Pundit reported on a damning trial that was heard in Maricopa County Superior Court by Judge Peter Thompson last week. The 2-day trial featured testimony from expert witnesses and Maricopa County officials. Also, to Gateway Pundit reported extensively on Lost Lake's lawsuit and the Superior Court trial. Here we says prior to the trial, Thompson dismissed all counts of the lawsuit except for Count 2 and Count 4 regarding the massive failure of ballot-on-demand printers and tabulators on Election Day, and the major chain of custody issues that could overturn the election. 8 of the 10 counts alleging violations of freedom of speech ahead of the election. Fraudulent signatures on mail-in ballot affidavits, discrimination against Republican voters, due process violation, unconstitutional mail-in ballot procedures, and proper certifications were dismissed before the trial. That appeals includes the December 19 ruling granting defendants' motion to dismiss. In part, the Gateway Pundit recently reported that Maricopa County and Katie Hobbs filed motions of attorney fees and sanctions against Lake and her attorney, seeking over $500,000, mostly from Mark Ellison's firm, for her legal team. Thompson denied the sanctions and the application for attorneys' fees, but still ordered Lake to pay the defendants' taxable costs, including witnesses' fees and ballot inspector fees. Responding to the motions against her, Kari Lake told the Gateway Pundit, while Katie Hobbs and Mark Ellis continue their crusade to destroy free and fair elections in Arizona, my team and I will continue to move forward with our case showing overwhelming evidence of misconduct in the general election. She also told Steve Bannon on Tuesday, "We are appealing this week." Kari Lake appealed to Division 1 of the Arizona Court of Appeals. However, they also seek direct review by the Arizona Supreme Court, either by petition for emergency transfer or by special action. And here's the full document here down here. You can check it out. Again, we're not going to, it's 35 pages. We're not going to go through all that. But if you want to check it out, it's in the description down below. You know what this means is that Kari Lake refuses to give up. She refuses to concede to Katie Hobbs and the people of that county. The Maricopa County Supervisor of Elections, She will continue to fight to expose the corruption that we have seen on full display not only one election, but in 2 elections in a row, and who knows how many other elections that they were involved in prior to 2020, 2016. Go down the list. 2012, 2008. How many more of these elections had they had their thumb on the scale in the state of Arizona, and especially Maricopa County? That's why they ended up with people like, I don't know, John McCain for so long. Just something to think about. Well, did you really expect anything different? This is why I prefaced every single video that I made on the Kari Lake trial by saying, look, don't get your hopes up. It's an uphill battle. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be hard to prove this. I mean, essentially Kari Lake is trying to prove the unprovable because there is no clear chain of custody. Ironically, the claim that Kari Lake was making of potential malfeasance is essentially the same thing that makes it impossible to prove such malfeasance. There's no way to really do a proper audit to make sure that every single piece of paper, every ballot is linked to a respective individual, a citizen and current. There's no way to actually work backwards and prove any of these claims in a court of law. But if you ask me, that alone should be enough to dismantle the whole thing, and start right back from square one, from zero, right at the drawing board, because clearly, Kari Lake's grievances aren't empty or disproven, quite the contrary. She effectively proved that a significant portion of ballots cast were lacking meeting the standards of basic chain of custody, and she also proved that a significant portion in many Republican districts, and mostly Republican districts on Election Day when Republicans planned to vote, were either accidentally or intentionally sabotaged by someone altering the ballot printer code to print 19-inch ballots instead of 20-inch ballots, which then caused tabulators to malfunction and caused absolute mayhem and chaos on Election Day, disenfranchising voters. She proved that none of that is deniable, and moments like these with Katie Hobbs as dazed and confused, totally lost legal defense, left stuttering, speechless, and just shuffling away from the podium, essentially prove that there is no argument counter to the grievances that Kari Lake's campaign brought up. But anyways, I'm kind of all over the place, despite all of it, despite the fact that there are clear issues, clear grievances, clear problems. Kari Lake's case was dismissed, thrown out by the judge, lacking actual evidence of individual wrongdoing. It's not really surprising, people were predicting this from the start, that the judge was just trying to grant the illusion as if he was being fair to both sides by granting Kari Lake a trial date. But really, in the end, the whole thing was a show. But just because this attempt was unsuccessful doesn't mean it's the end, it was still progress. Initially, these types of legal challenges have been dismissed outright, not getting a trial date at all. At least Kari Lake got her day in court. And at least we have these bombshell witness and expert testimony on the record in court, these viral clips and viral moment for millions to see and share. Slowly these issues are gaining awareness, slowly. People are realizing that the system is totally and utterly broken. I like to remain optimistic and think that this is step one. And the reason I could remain optimistic is because I know for a fact there's one person who won't give up. There's one person that's going to continue to fight to the absolute bitter end. And who do you think that is? That's Kari Lake, and boy is she fighting. If you think it's over, then you are very simply mistaken. Desperate, Katie Hobbs and Maricopa County are now seeking more than $500,000 for Hillary attorney Mark Elias, or Mark Elias, and sanctions for Kari Lake and her lawyers. Of course, not surprising at all. Mark Elias, Hillary Clinton's lawyer, famous DNC lawyer, the guy who runs that law firm that was connected to Black Lives Matter, or rather the law firm that was representing the Black Lives Matter slush fund that happened to funnel, I think, $12.1 million for legal expenses wherever this guy seems to show up. Something dirty is going on. So of course, not surprising at all, the DNC illegal muscle cavalry comes in. But Kari Lake just announced that the judge denied Arizona Governor-elect Hobbs's request to sanction LACO over election lawsuit. The judge slapped down Hobbs and allies as despicable attempted recrimination. Kari Lake still believes that her case has merit, and I would tend to agree, especially if you take a look at this case law example. Election Mule on Twitter writes, update: case law is on the side of Kari Lake. Findley versus Sorensen: irregularities can void an election if the results are rendered uncertain. This case was cited but not followed by Judge Peter Thompson, linking a picture to this case law document. A court must apply all reasonable presumptions in favor of the validity of an election. Moore versus City of Page: honest mistakes or mere omissions on the part of election officers or irregularities in direct matters, or rather in directory matters, even though gross if not fraudulent, will not void an election unless they affect the results or at least render it uncertain. Finley versus Sorensen 35 Arizona from 1929 unless they affect the result, or at least render it uncertain. That seems to me like legal precedent from a previous case that stipulates that you don't even necessarily need to prove that the actual results were affected, you just need to prove that the end results remain uncertain. Well, if you apply that standard, it doesn't get any more uncertain than this. The whole system is nothing but uncertainty. I think the number that Kari Lake's campaign got to was 60% of ballots, having no clear chain of custody, not to mention what happened on election day. If that doesn't cause uncertainty, then what will? What does? Not only does Kari Lake's legal challenge have common sense substance to it, but it seems as though her legal argument is pretty sound as well. There's some actual substance there based on Arizona case law. But of course it doesn't really change much. The judge was already presented all of this and he made the decision that he made. That's probably a wrap of the Kari Lake trial. But it doesn't mean it's over. Kari Lake is not going anywhere. She's a fighter and simply the people don't want her to go anywhere. And we're already seeing huge speculation of Kari Lake is going to run for Senate in 2024 against Kyrsten Sinema. And keep in mind that Kyrsten Sinema is now running as an independent and Democrats are probably going to run their own candidate to unseat Kyrsten Sinema. Essentially, the left-wing vote might be split between Kyrsten Sinema and the Democratic candidates. And that puts Kari Lake in quite the position to possibly be a United States Senator for the state of Arizona. In other words, she's not going anywhere. She's becoming the Democrats' worst nightmare and she will continue to do so. And one way or another things are moving forward no matter how many barriers, no matter how many walls the left tries to erect. The political battle continues. Kari Lake is not giving up. She's not going anywhere. She's not backing down. And I'm sure you're not surprised to hear this, but based on a lot of hypothetical early polling data matching up Kyrsten Sinema, other Democrats, and Kari Lake for the Senate race in Arizona, she's already leading a lot of those polls. Firebrand political superstar Kari Lake is most likely going to get to Washington one way or another, no matter how hard they try to stop her. Hopefully you folks enjoyed this chat this morning. Thank you very much.